So, I want to talk about the launch of the PlayStation 5, which we don't have an official release date for yet, but it looks like it's going to be around November of this year. I know with the current pandemic, a lot of things are up in the air, and people have been speculating that the console launches might be delayed, not just for Sony, but for Microsoft. Both companies have stated that the virus currently is not affecting the launch of their consoles, and they're still ahead of schedule. But even so, at least for Sony, it looks like they're running into a lot of problems. They're short on supplies. They might not have enough to really have a successful launch. So what might end up happening is that the console will launch in November this year, or October, whatever, in the fall. But what's probably going to end up happening is that the console will have a very limited launch. Obviously, I don't know when the stores are going to reopen. Like GameStop and all those gaming and electronic stores, they're currently closed right now, at least most of them are. And even if they reopen, it doesn't look like the social distancing is going to go away anytime soon, so you can't really stand on a long line to wait for this console to launch, and you can go in the store and pick up the console. I mean, it's going to be a fucking zoo going to that store trying to get the PlayStation 5, and a lot of people are not going to want to take that risk because it's a health risk, and a lot of the stores might not have a physical launch. So that might not necessarily affect the supply, but it's going to affect the accessibility of the console for people to be able to get it, because you'd have to order all those consoles online, and that might present a little bit of a logistical problem. If we're ordering all our consoles online from the same website, first of all, the website might crash, you know what I mean? Like, if you order it from Sony's website, and that's the only way to pre-order it, or even Amazon, like, I don't know, there's gonna be some problems there if we're just doing an online launch. And it looks like that's what's exactly going to happen. I mean, I guess Walmart can have some PlayStation 5s and Xbox Series X consoles because Walmart will never close. So you might have a few retailers that will still have a physical launch. It's just going to have to be very limited. Like, you can't have large gatherings at the same time. Only a certain amount of people can be in the store at the same time. Because let's be realistic, I don't think this thing is going to go away completely in November. Even if people start going back to work, the social distancing is probably still going to be in effect to some degree. So even if they don't have a supply problem, Sony, and they have enough supplies, the launch is definitely going to be affected in some way, and it's not going to be good for them. The problem with Sony and Microsoft just delaying their consoles until 2021 is we still don't know at this point when this is going to end. Like, there's no expiration date on this pandemic. We have no idea what's going to happen. I'm sure all you guys saw the Fast and Furious movie that was supposed to come out next month is delayed until April of 2021. Hollywood is definitely suffering from this pandemic with all the filming delays, and they can't really do anything. A lot of these shows, like, we're not going to have any new TV in the fall, which is just going to be really depressing not to have any new episodes of any of my favorite shows. Oh man, that's going to be rough. And the entire sporting industry, oh man, I think they're definitely being hit the hardest out of all of those entertainment industries. The sports industry, oh my god, I feel so bad for all those wrestlers that just got fired from WWE. That's really tough, man, because these wrestlers, it's not like they could just go and wrestle somewhere else, you know, in another wrestling company, because there's no wrestling, because you have to be in an arena full of people to sell tickets and all that. And if there's no shows, there's no money. It's really sad to see all these people struggling out there in the world, but, I mean, at some point, we also got to worry about ourselves. How long can we sustain ourselves not working, sitting at home? Yeah, there are a lot of people that can work from home, but there are a lot of people out there on the front lines because they're essential employees, and there are other people that can't work at all because their industry doesn't really translate well into working from home. Like, you can't work a cashier at McDonald's working from home, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is kind of relevant to the subject. I'm not just going off on a random tangent, but, like, a lot of people are struggling out there. Their bills are going to pile up while this crisis is going on. Just because they're not working doesn't mean that their mortgage isn't still due. Doesn't mean that they don't owe rent to their landlord. And even though they're not doing evictions or foreclosures at the moment, that's kind of being delayed. Well, the courts aren't even open, so even if they want to do that, they can't. But either way, if you're not paying it now, you're going to owe it at the end. And you're going to have all this debt from all those backed up rent payments and utility bills. I mean, it's going to be insurmountable debt for a lot of people. And the last thing that's going to be on their mind is getting the new shiny game system, especially if they're trying to launch the console for $500. I mean, that's not going to work in this economy. I don't care. If this thing ends tomorrow, if people can start going back to work tomorrow, it's still, the damage is already done. We're looking at 15% unemployment rate by the end of the year, which is just really, really scary to think. And I'm graduating this year, so I'm going to graduate into a fucked up economy, which I kind of have a lot of anxiety about, to be honest with you. There are a lot of people I know that had job offers that were given to them, like as soon as they graduate, they have a job, and those job offers were rescinded, obviously, because there's no economy anymore. I myself didn't get a job offer, but I had a job interview lined up, and that interview is probably never going to happen. And I'm not trying to complain, I'm not trying to ask for sympathy or anything, because, well, I'm actually doing really fine right now. It's not like things are awful. But what I'm trying to get at is the last thing on my mind is the PlayStation 5 or the Series X. I mean, I was already thinking about not getting those consoles anyway, like, no matter what, even if there was a good economy and there was no crisis and all that. But I'm definitely much less likely to get any of those consoles with what's going on right now. No, it just doesn't seem like a good financial decision to buy a $500 console when you have so many real-world problems, you know what I mean? As far as how long the actual shutdown goes, I mean, it's anyone's guess how long it's gonna last. The most optimistic projection I've seen was that this is going to end in around late June, early July, somewhere around that point. Like, that's the most optimistic projection I've seen. But there are other medical researchers that say this might last into the fall, and that's right around the time these consoles are coming out, so I don't know how that's going to work. Because even if things start to reopen around July or August or whatever, it'll probably take at least a year for people to actually recover from this disaster. So I do think no matter what happens, even in the best case scenario, these consoles are going to have a very tough launch. And you see a lot of these Xbox fanboys on Twitter saying, oh, the PlayStation 5 is going to fail, it's going to have a terrible launch. Like, dude, do you not realize that if whatever's going to happen with the PlayStation 5, it's probably going to be even worse with the Series X, especially if it's more expensive than the PlayStation 5? And even if they could get through all of that, even if they're able to get the launch, like, if people are willing to pay that price for those consoles, what fucking games are you gonna have that's gonna come out for those consoles in late 2020? Like, the development is gonna get delayed at the very minimum, right? So, like, what games are you gonna really have at launch? Like, the launch library is probably gonna be very scarce with or without a crisis like this. It's probably gonna be even worse because of all these games that are being delayed. As far as long-term effects of this economic disaster on the new generation of consoles, the generation's probably going to last a little bit longer now. My original projection was 2027 for the 10th generation to come out. Now I'm probably going to push that to 2028 because of what's going on at this very moment. The 7th generation lasted from 2005 to 2013, and the reason why it was 8 years is because of the 2008 recession. This is going to be even worse than 2008. It kind of already is. If these consoles do come out in November with those launch prices of $500 or maybe even more than that for the Series X, we're going to have to start getting a price cut like around mid-2021 in order for this thing to be viable, in order for these consoles to take off. I mean, no one's going to pay $500 for a brand new console in this current ecosystem. Like, let's be realistic here. The thing about the video game industry is that it's actually doing pretty well versus other industries that are being hit really hard, because a lot of people have free time on their hands, they want to play video games, and I mean, just look at Warzone, that game was a huge success. So overall, the video game industry is not going to collapse or anything like that, but as far as the new technology is concerned, the new consoles, the timing probably couldn't be any worse. But that pretty much wraps up today's video. Let me know in the comments how you think the PlayStation 5 and Series X are going to do in this current economic climate, if you agree or disagree with some of the predictions I made. And what I'm most interested in hearing from you guys is if you originally planned on getting the new consoles, but with the current situation, maybe you changed your mind about that. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.